there was a group. There was an organization of folks, Nueces County Citizens Defending Freedom. And the county commissioners and the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation had made an agreement to do a program at their Nueces County Public Library on health education, and specifically more about, sexual orientation and safe sex and everything. And that passed. And then this group got wind of it, and they went and testified at the county commissioner's court and made a big boo-ha. And there ended up being a protest at a training they were having about further book bans. And that's what the Texans for the Right to Read issued a press statement about that. And so that's good. I've been involved with that group. I trust them as a board member on the Corpus Christi board. You can join the Texas Library Association as an advocate. So I've kind of been getting news from them for years. Since then, I followed up with the court, and they want to keep the agreement, but they told me the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation wants to cancel the memorandum, and they might have done that by now.
Canceling the memorandum, which way?
Oh, it was a memorandum of understanding, so they won't be providing that program.
So they yielded to the pressure immediately then. Yeah.
The Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation did. I suppose it put them in a bad position, almost like dangerous, because it's kind of a threatening group.
It cut me off when it's time to start. I went out to Flower Bluff to that training incognito. I didn't tell them I was a community activist, really. I acted like a dumbass, pardon my language, and they let me in, and they wanted me to come back out and go through their tutorial on how to speak at the school board meetings and how to speak at the county commissioner meetings and the city council and any other place that I might need help learning to speak in public. And I wouldn't give them my email address. I told them, I don't have email. I can't afford it. I'm on a fixed income. They said, well, come out and use our email. We will set you up an email address, and you can send emails to all your county commissioners, city council, blah. So they are a group that is very, they were very scary at that particular time. I wouldn't sit up at the table. I was the only one masked. And I said, oh no, I'm a 73-year-old woman, and I don't sit in close to people without a mask. And so I'll stay back here in the corner. It was a very enlightening training. Yeah.
Right. And so they're highly organized, and they have a right to do that. But if we're going to challenge those book bans, we need to get more organized in our advocacy as well. So that's what this call is about. And Alice has joined, and Alice will formally get on in a minute, I'm sure. And she is the chair of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And so last year we started a program called Conversations, where we could talk about things, hopefully very open and frank and honest, that affected DEI. And that's one of the words that they say to watch out for this organization. So we're on a watch list. Anyway, back then we started talking about challenge books, and we thought this was timely to keep it going for several reasons. First off, did y'all get to read the Caller Times article? You know that there's already been challenges in the Tolosa Midway school system, and in the CCISD, and I would say in the Nueces County libraries, and I believe they're probably about to head toward the city libraries. This is a good time, though, in that to start being heard more, in that the Banned Book Weeks is coming up September 18th through 24th. And so I thought we could talk about that tonight. And then I wanted to just keep touching base on the universal issue and this Krause list, because that has to do with the challenges and the state legislature that's going to open on January 10th. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Alice?
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late. Just
That's
too
all
many
right.
things.
You're
Too
here
many
twice.
things well, it's too many things vying for my time.
So Alice, I was just giving a brief intro and, letting everyone know you're the chair of the DEI and why we were involved, interested and want to be advocates for freedom of expression and freedom of reading, and how we felt like it was a DEI issue.
Yeah, of course it is. Anytime, hold on a second. I got lots of I had another device going. Of course, it's a DEI thing, especially since the biggest targets of this DEI right now is the LGBTQ community, and they are wanting to take books off the shelf. The problem that I have with them taking books off of the public library shelf is that we're taxpayers and adults, and I have a real serious issue with people dictating what we can and cannot read even in the privacy of our own home, even in the library, or checking books out. I mean, I understand that idea of looking and trying to control certain types of literature in public schools, but the business of getting involved with people's lives, personal lives, I think is an invasion of their privacy. And it's all of this is part of the Privacy Act too. This idea of the LGBTQ community being basically trying to be controlled by these people. So I think that it is important that we get on this because it is a personal freedom, that we choose what we want to choose. We read what we want to read. We go where we want to go. I mean, it's really difficult for me. I'm not sure what's happening here.
You sound good. You look good.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Wow, well, my video went off. I'm not sure what's happening here.
Well, we see you as well.
You can see me?
Yes.
Why did that happen? Okay, well, anyway.
And you're looking good, Alice.
Thank you. I'm not sure what happened with that. I don't know why it went off. But anyway, my point is that we want to kind of get on this business of book banning and making sure that we meet for every action that they make, we need to be kind of answering that. And in some cases, even before they make these moves on trying to control what we read. I'm just right now, I cannot process someone trying to dictate what adults can read and what adults can't read. That is just, it is so far out of, I cannot fathom it. I don't understand it. So whatever is going on in these people's heads, I'm not sure that I even want to know, but I do know that we need to start pushing back. We need to have some kind of response to these people, because what has happened historically is that we've just kind of blew them off and said, oh, well, whatever, and called them loonies and all of that. But the loonies are gaining traction. And so we do need to work toward trying to do something to kind of answer what they are trying, counteract what they're trying to do. So Julie and I have been talking about this for quite some time. And we were thinking and hoping that perhaps maybe we could organize some type of event where we have the press do some kind of a press conference or something, such that we can actually address what is actually going on with this book banning business. And again, I'm not a parent, but if I were a parent, I would be concerned about certain things. But as an adult, I think that this is kind of a bridge too far for us to just sit down and try to kick back and say, oh, there's nothing to it, because I think that we've already lost a lot of ground, not only just on the LGBT community, but in other situations as well, because we have written these people off as just being loonies and all of that, and that is not the case. The loonies are trying to run the country, and we need to put a stop to it. We need to address that as heartily as they are. So Julie has sent a list to me that was sent to her by, I'm not sure who sent her that list, but it's called Krause's list, and it's 6 pages of books that have been identified and targeted by this group. I think it's the Mothers Against, what is it?
Moms for Liberty.
Moms for Liberty. They are the ones that are targeted, and not only that, the gentleman that owns both of the coffee waves is part of that group. And the last time that there was a gathering out there in the bluff, it was at the coffee waves, and he's part of that group. So there's some influential people involved in trying to stop our liberties. And so we had thought that perhaps we could organize some type of community activity where we will do some pushback on this business of banning books. I taught English for a lot of years, and one of the books that I taught was 1984. And it's all about controlling people's minds and ideas and their behaviors and where they go and what they do, because you've got this Gestapo effect going on, and they want to control people's lives. And we don't stand for that in America. We are a free country, and this business of this Privacy Act is something that I actually kind of came front and center with a couple of weeks ago. And we hear a lot of ideas thrown around and bantered around, and we think we understand those topics. And I just recently had an eye opener when they started talking about the Privacy Act. And in the Privacy Act is gay marriage is included in that, and they've already did the abortion thing, and abortion was part of that Privacy Act. Gay rights is a part of that Privacy Act, and even interracial marriage is a part of that Privacy Act. And I don't believe that people really understand the ramifications of Congress and these people that are in power trying to change those acts or take them down. a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we would not have believed that Roe would have fallen. But we also know that the Voting Rights Act was gutted. And then Roe, 50 years old, it has fallen. So, the reality of this whole thing is that all of our rights are threatened behind people who want to think for us. So,
So that's a really good big picture because Alice has shown that this is this is one of those, it's a marathon kind of things. But what we do want to try to do is not be on the defensive, but get on the offensive with this instead of reacting to them. And that also just follows our philosophy and belief that we should defend democracy. So I know everybody's very, very busy and we've got, like 30 minutes or so. Did anyone want to respond to that? And then I think we should move on to Banned Book Week. And there's some things in the chat that I can't see. And Nell could read that out first. But is anybody want to respond to what Alice has just said?
I would like to add to. Is it okay?
yes.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions that maybe will make sense in a minute. But first of all, I saw on Facebook yesterday that in Gregory, Portland, they had a big library book sale. And I was just curious if that was just because they had too many books. Were those banned books? What were they? And this list of books from Krause, State Representative Krause, I would love to see that list of books as well. If you could share it with us as well, Julie.
Yeah.
And, I do, I've got a few friends that are librarians here, there, and yon, or retired librarians, and they are, of course, anxious, as Alice knows and So if we find out that something else is going to pop back up, if you could set up a text list that it's going to happen Tuesday at 9 o'clock or whatever, then maybe we could do some rapid response to get folks there. And perhaps we should even come up with some, of course, most of us can write our own talking points, but sometimes if it's on short notice, you might want to have some talking points ready to pass out, so someone doesn't have to do research in case we don't know about it until 9 o'clock at night and it's the next morning at 8:30. But I do think that I think it very appropriately belongs in front of the DEI committee, and I'm tickled to be with y'all tonight. I do know one thing. Last week we were corrected on is that the Coffee Waves on Alameda is not part of that same group. Now I don't know if that's true. I see Jim is on. I think Jim was in the room when that was corrected. But maybe we should try to find that out too. I don't even know what the guy's name is at Flower Bluff that runs that church. But if y'all haven't been out there, you need to drive out there. At one end of the shopping center is the church, and then it's kind of an L-shaped shopping center that ends up at Coffee Waves, Flower Bluff. It's all the church. The whole shopping center is the church. This room is this section. This room is another department or whatever. So it's big, it's organized, as you said, and it is frightening, especially with State Representative Krause pulling their chains. So that's all I wanted to say. So
no, those are really good things. Let me cover those points. I wrote them down. Let me go with the Krause thing first. Yes, that is very alarming, and he'll be back in legislature and they're working on it. And I will send that to everyone. What I'd hope would happen tonight, and it can, is that we could see who wants the Krause list. That group is using the list. That's what all these groups are using for the book challenges. So it's important to look at it, but they're also reading books that they want to challenge. And we talked about the way this got started was starting a banned book club. And what I think we should start first is whoever is interested in the Kraus list, I will send it to you. And if someone could adopt a page and look in the Corpus Christi Public Library card catalog, it will tell you whether they have the book or not, because that's the book they're going to challenge. They're going through the list right now. They've said it, and they're going to be pulling from that list and challenging the 20 more, I believe, from the Corpus Christi Independent School District and then the public library. So that's the Kraus list. If you're interested in being on doing that work for the committee, what it would consist of, send me your, put something in the chat. I will send you the list and you can look at I'll assign you a page number, look at the card catalog and see where it is in Corpus Christi. The Corpus Christi Public Library card catalog is electronic. You could do it any time of day, and it will tell you if it's in a school library. Okay, Kraus list. Gregory Portland. On that, Becky, they have like a Friends of Library, and there's that book owner. They have a really good local bookstore over there. And she is in charge of that, and they do it to raise money for the library. So that's what that's about. And the Coffee Waves on Alameda, we recently had a board meeting. We meet the first Thursdays of every month, and it was confirmed by Eli that it had been sold, and that fella who owns the Flower Bluff Coffee Waves now owns the Alameda Coffee Waves. And rapid response, I think that's exactly what we need, and we need to work toward that, but also not wait for that to happen. And I'm hoping that that's what would happen with this committee. Right now, as the league, we're trying to get observers so that people can watch these parts of government that are making these decisions, because everything's moving really fast, and we know that happens more during campaign season than not. So if someone like to chat about assigning a Kraus page number, if someone wants to be an observer and watch these meetings, you would have to watch the CCISD meeting, just check the agendas. Also the city, we could all share with each other, and that website, the Moms for Liberty and the Nueces County Concern or Citizens for whatever it is, sorry, they post things as well. And so those are all options. So those were really important things, Becky, to bring up, because those are the kind of things we needed to cover in this meeting. And so again, drop something in the chat if you want to do the Kraus list. Drop something in the chat if you want to monitor government, board meetings and groups to see what's happening. And I just can tell you that it's going to heat up as we head toward the election season, because this is a wedge issue, and they're just trying to divide people, which is why the theme for Banned Book Week is Books Will Unite Us, Not Divide Us.
Also, I'd like to comment on what Julie was saying. Is one of the things that has been happening in times past is these Moms for whatever it is. I can never think of that. I don't know why. I guess I have a mental block about even, learning who they are, but that's not good. But what we also need to do is so often they get up there, because I sit on the board of CCISD, for those of you who don't know, and we've had a number of meetings and in the open session or the open comment, public comment, we've had this group, Moms for, was it Liberty, or was it, I need to write that down so I can remember. But anyway, they would get up there, and they have challenged our district already. And I don't know if it's been fully vetted, but supposedly those titles that they called into question at the meeting, the Hernandez Superintendent Hernandez had his librarians to check those shelves for those books. And I know for a fact that the report that came back to us about that particular situation was that we only had 2 or 3 of the books, and they were only on 2 or 3 campuses. And one of the books that they were really pushing hard against about the explicit pictures and stuff like that had never even been checked out. And then another one of the books that they were complaining about that had sexualized pictures and stuff in it had only been checked out 1 time. The issue that the whole problem is as they cry wolf and draw attention to these books, I feel like that's going to stir kids up, students up to go pull these books and look at them. But based on the report that we got back, the majority of the books that they claim that they came to the board meeting and read explicitly from the pages had never been checked out. So what we want to do, Julie and I have had a conversation, and we want to make sure, and that's why we're offering anybody who wants to help us vet these books to go ahead and take a certain group of them and look at them, vet them, and read them if it's not something that's oppressive. I know we don't all have a lot of time because we're all busy, but if we could make sure that we had a basic idea of what the book, the contents of the book, and if there are explicit visuals in those books, so that when they are challenged, we can have a response for that. Because a lot of times some of this stuff is just hyperbole. And if nobody is there to call them out or say, no, that's not what's happening in that book, or that doesn't appear in that book, then they can get away with this. And we have people who are just bystanders and listeners are waiting for a cause to wreak havoc, and they will take that and run with that, and it will not be the truth. So that is why we need to make sure that we are able to challenge them, to make sure that we know as much or more about the books than they do.
That's
So
it.
we really are in need of people who will help us look at those books.
That's really
on that
good.
list.
And I see something in the chat from Tim Dallin, and he wanted to know like what made those books get on such a list. So when you start looking at it, you're going to see a theme, and we already know what one is just from unfortunately all the rhetoric, and that's the LGBTQIA plus issue or lifestyle or something the matter with it. And they are mostly graphic novels that are on that list. And so the reason, if we wanted to read something, it's good to look at one of those because they're actually easier to read, and I think that's one of the things that that pushes their buttons. So it's the LGBTQIA plus, and then there's a group of books that are on there because they question authority and want people to advocate for change. And so when I saw that, I was like, what? One of the books that is on there, for instance, is The Lottery, a famous short story from 1948 by Shirley Jackson. And it's been turned into a graphic novel by her grandson. And so that is on the list, and that's on the list for the reason for questioning authority. It does have one picture on there where it shows a woman's breast, and I don't know if that is what got him, going or not. But also the thing about that list, when you look at it, is that it's good to bring up all banned books. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. There's 2 banned book things going on in the city that are very important, but they tend to not be on that list. They're like the 1984, Handmaid's Tale. They're more for adults. This Krause list is designed for people to go into the public space and challenge books. So it's kind of two different things. You know what, does that make sense what I'm saying to everyone so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we came in late, Vicky and I, so we're a little bit behind. But just, I know that we know the same people. Mariah is one of those persons that has gotten other, similar, I guess, sympathizers to go to the the school district's board meeting. And I'm wondering, I mean, she's not a member of the league, but would this committee, would it be open to inviting maybe Mariah? I don't know how you want to, because like you said before, we're all have a lot on our plate. And I know that for sure, Mariah, that is one of her big issues. And I mean, I didn't know if y'all wanted to invite other people that are not in the league for this group, or I'm just putting it out there.
I'm glad you did. I think that's appropriate. We are also trying to partner with folks in the community, because we all know we can't do it all, and so that is a good idea, Sylvia and Vicky.
Sylvia. Sylvia, I think that's we'd like to welcome anybody who's willing and has the time and has the inclination to want to be a part of this, because when one is threatened, we are all threatened, and that's just the bottom line. And sometimes these people who are agitating and stirring up and all of that, I think sometimes this whole thing gets away from them, and unintended consequences end up happening. And by the time that happens, the full damage is done. So if we can get neighborhood people or people in the community to be willing to stand with us on this, I think that is so important. We're all trying to grow our, Sylvia, this is you. We're trying to grow our membership. And if we can get people to join our group, just with the sole intent of helping out with this business of cancel culture and trying to change our lives and create this animosity and take control, it would be beneficial for everybody that is interested at all to become a part of this. And I know Jim works at the college, and Jim, you probably have access to other, professors and adjunct faculty and all of that may be willing to be a part of that. And I'm not sure about the rest that's on here, but if you know of anybody that wants to be a part of this and know that we are being threatened by these people who want to control every aspect of our lives, then they need to come and be part of it. And I would not think that not being a member would, prohibit that or inhibit them from helping us, because we do need help.
Alice,
So
the other groups that we might want to think about are any book clubs. I was a member of a book club. Because of COVID, we're not meeting anymore, but those folks and I talk about the book ban all the time. So let's think about our neighbors that say they go to a book club meeting on Tuesday and see if they want to invite some of them to help us with the project, because it's going to get bigger, as you mentioned,
Yes,
Julie,
it
instead of
is.
smaller. So those guys are out there.
Yes, they are.
yeah, so I think what we can do is use banned book weeks. This is my proposal. Use the banned book week to start a bigger project, and it entails everything that's been mentioned: the Krause list and rapid response talking points, because we have to learn to talk about it right now and at a local level, because it's going to be big in January, and that's not something we want to wait on. And so tonight, what we propose is, if you're interested, and we need a point person, we need a couple of people to help, not me or Alice, but another person, not someone on the board, but someone who can help move this, and we will support you and do it with you, but somebody other than us if possible. And that's what we hope to accomplish tonight. Band Book Week is September 18th through the 24th. There's already, Karen sent some great information. The Nayland Library is already starting a band book club, which is really good.
Awesome.
And yeah. And it's got good books. I looked at it. It's gonna be those more for adult books. And so we need to, do that. Then Jim mentioned something about how we always did the Calypso. If you look at a national website, there's a band book week website. And one of the common activities is to have people to do a read-in, and people read banned books. And a lot of folks did that here in Corpus Christi for several years in a coalition with ACLU. And it was always real effective. And that was at a local bookstore. And so there is a new local bookstore in town called Black Cat Books over on Staples. And it just so happens that they are also have a banned book club in conjunction with a wonderful group called the Traveling Library, who participated in the March, and it's run by Abby Trevino. She's a young activist that drives the books into neighborhoods, usually the West Side neighborhoods. And so they're reading Handmaid's Tale on the 23rd. And so those are already banned book activities. And what Alice and I had talked about is maybe a way the league could contribute is do the read-in or do some kind of press conference, just so we can start shining the light in a different way than it's being shined right now, and kick off this project because it's bigger. So those are our thoughts, and what we really need right now is feedback. And if somebody is like, oh my God, I want to do this thing so bad, and all I
see three hands up there, so I think they want to.
Good, because I can't see. I'm on a phone.
Oh my God! Yeah, Tim.
Yes, we have Anel,
Vicky,
Vicky,
all right,
and Tim.
All right. So Alice, you take over, please, and facilitate the crowd.
Well, I do the best I can. Okay, I think that Anel had hers up, and then we'll hear from Vicky.
Tim was first.
I think Tim was first.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking at okay. Well, we'll go the reverse. Tim, Vicky, and Anel, in that order.
All right, so maybe I'm thinking too much like a lawyer here, which I worked at for 40 years, but if somebody came to me and said, I want you to take this action, and here's a list, I would say to them something like this. I'd say, I see your list, I see a title, I see an author, and I see a year it was published. But I don't see you telling me anything about why each book should be banned. So I want you, who's proposing the ban, to tell me every reason you have for banning each book.
Mhm.
So if it's okay, it's LBGT, it questions authority, whatever it may be. So tell me that. And then if there are particular pages you don't like, say it's a graphic novel, we don't like the woman's breast on page 42. Tell me that. So tell me the reasons, not just your conclusions. And then I can guarantee you that Representative Krause has not read all of these books.
No,
So someone told him to come up with this list. So
exactly.
then you dig a little deeper and say, okay, where did you get this information? Book number 17, you want it banned for this reason. Who told you it should be banned for that reason? And then find out that information. And this will put them on the defensive. And if their goal is to divide and create an issue, a wedge issue, like Julie said, for the election, that hopefully, if I was a decision maker, if I was on the CCISD school board, I'd say, okay, I see your list. I'm not going to consider this until you give me that information. You bring it back to me and I will look at it. And then I'll want to hear from other people that have another viewpoint. And then finally, I don't know if anybody saw it, but Nick Jimenez, longtime editorial writer for the Caller Times, who's I always thought wrote very thoughtful and intelligent editorials. He had one, I think, in the last Sunday paper, if not the last one, the one before. And he basically said this approach that these folks have is these books do not agree with our viewpoint, therefore they should be banned. That's not a reason to ban a book.
Oh, it is.
So if you can get them out in the open, that's their objective. And then just look at Mr. Jimenez's editorial in general. It's inspiring. It's very concise, it's thoughtful, and it'll give you some good argument points. But the main point of my comments here was just put these people on the defense and say, tell us for each book why you want it banned. Give me specifics. Don't just tell me a broad conclusion. And then I will have a reason to evaluate it. But if you just give me a name and a title, I go, that's nothing for me to make a decision on. So anyway, those are my comments.
Very
Okay,
good,
just
lawyer.
before Vicky gets started, Tim, you're right. And one of the things that these ladies that came to the school board meeting, they literally brought passages and they read from those passages. However, in totality, that was maybe one page out of the book
Right.
that they took offense to and all that. So you're right to put them back on their heels and defend what they're saying, before we actually start doing that. However, I still say that who are you to tell me what I should be reading or that's just not acceptable.
Right. I agree entirely. And I think it's an easier case to make.
Yes.
For the adults, for the adult books. I mean, that's got to be, it has information about how to make a nuclear weapon. Oh, okay. We won't do that one. But if it's about LGBT or questioning authority, I'm sorry, we're not going to ban a book for that.
And so that's in keeping with the American Library Association and the Texas Library Association. The librarians certainly believe that they shouldn't be monitoring and telling people what they can read or not read. They are also getting pressure. And so you'll see that happen nationwide. So that's why it's important for us as defenders of democracy and freedom to read that we, be strong advocates. But we're all on the same page, so to speak. Pardon the pun.
Vicky?
I had just wanted to respond to the comment about book clubs, and I just posted to everyone in the chat the page that my book club sent around this week, and our goal is to pick one of those books and read for this next month. But I guess my question is, I'm not real clear what value we can add by one at a time reading these books. I mean, I understand we want to understand what their objections are, but I think that the assumption is that we're dealing with reasonable people, and I don't think that is the case.
True that. That is true.
I think the first step is just to see what's in that library and in the other libraries. And there's a short list of like top, 5 you could look at. The one reason we were talking about it is there's a lot of banned book clubs, starting, which is good. And so we can direct people to those. Like we have a capacity as the league to be a mighty small army. And our reach is probably stronger, bigger than we are. And the goal is, how can we use that then? And this is something we can all decide together. And Vicki, I know you got some good ideas, as well as everybody else, Karen, Monica. How can we use our reach and the power we have to help defend democracy and defend books, really? So that's where we're at. I feel, and that's why I brought up a press conference, the league's got a respected name. It's possible that we have to talk to Catherine. She's working on something right now. So it's not possible that we talk to her. We have to. But what we could ask her is, could we have a press conference and talk about why books are important to democracy? And kind of add a different layer to what's going on right now. Because the conversation needs to be changed. And it needs to be positive. And we don't need to be on the defense. And all those things right now as a movement for freedom to read and freedom of expression here in Corpus Christi and around the nation, that's not happening. The people who want to ban books are about 1 or 2 or more steps ahead of us.
Now,
For the purposes of this video, because it'll get posted to YouTube, would you explain what exactly Banned Book Week is? Or is there something specific happening? Are there events planned across the nation, or just, I'm not entirely clear on it, and I thought others might not as well.
That's very good. Jim, did you want to speak to the history of Banned Book Week?
Sure. When the Progressive Populist Caucus was still active here in Corpus Christi, we kind of gone dormant now, but we participated in Banned Book Week, and it was just very informal. They urged people, groups nationwide, to get together and read just a short passage from a book that had been put on a banned, had been on a banned list somewhere in the country. And so we did that over at Cafe Calypso. I think that's something we could do something like that again now as well here locally. If we're to do that, and there's positive and negative consequence to this potentially, I think it might be worthwhile to, before the formal reading, to invite, make a statement at a meeting of the CCISD school board and say, invite the members to the banned book event, because that'll tell them, it will inform them that this group exists, right? So that there's a group out there now that's concerned about books being banned. Now, as I said, there's a downside to that potentially, that might kind of put this on their radar as well. I think the other group is already visible to them, and so I think that we need to kind of raise that level of kind of visibility, maybe with the city council as well, or anybody else who's making a decision on this as well, some of the other school districts in the area also. And one other thing I was going to mention as well, I know you were talking about the state legislature. I just did a quick look. There's a public education committee in the House, and Representative Krause is not currently a member of it. Well, even in between the legislative sessions, there's a lot of activity out there. They have interim charges and they have interim committee meetings. There's going to be another one of those on September 20th. I just looked at the agenda for that. It has nothing at all about books that are of considered sensitive nature or anything like that, which is good. So I don't think there's any value in going to the committee, because that would again kind of raise the profile of this whole issue. I don't think you want to do that at this point. But I think there's real value in maybe talking to Representative Herrero, who has been a strong, fierce champion of public education throughout his time in the state legislature, and maybe even Representative Hunter as well, to talk to them about this and let them know, the group's concerns about this as well going forward. As I said, Krause is not on the Public Education Committee right now. He might move on to it in January. Those committee assignments all change in January when the new legislative session goes into being. Thanks.
well, that's good. That's good information to know how that they are changing positions. And you said January, Jim? Okay. So and who knows if Representative Krause knows we're getting ready to do something, he might, like you say, want to be on that list in order to start buffering what they're trying to do. But we do need to get started. And I guess what needs to also happen, Julie, you can jump in here at any time, is to kind of just get some very pointed, I guess, outcomes that we want for this, other than just, as Jim said, looking at a particular manuscript and having a discussion. But and we need to, the book clubs, that's what they do, but we also need to be able to articulate the fact that if we don't have an educated group of people, we won't have a democracy. And if we don't have an opportunity to speak our piece with impunity, we won't have a democracy. This is the issue that is actually emerging and rising up before us, is this will be taking, if we allow this to get out of hand, they will be dictating to us what we can say and what we can't, what we can read, what we can't, and how we should, and then they're going to start telling us how we should feel about these things. And so I just feel that there's such a great threat here that in many cases we are not really internalizing. And I think those of us here who are speaking and spending our time here may understand the intensity of what's already happening and what's on on the horizon. But I think that there's a certain group of people in our public that need to understand what the ramifications of allowing these kinds of organizations to rise and prevail. Before we know it, we'll be overtaken. And so I cannot express enough that we have to be vigilant, and we have to be willing to step up and answer to each threat as it comes along.
I think Tim has his hand up.
Okay,
And I
Tim.
do.
Oh, Karen, well, yeah. Karen, did you speak? Did you need to speak? Karen and
Yes,
Monica?
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Alice, what you're saying is that there's a very vocal, aggressive minority, making their will heard.
Mhm.
And I think, to Jim's point, it's so important that we are just as vocal to the policymakers.
Mhm.
And I love the idea of having a presence, even just if it's a point counterpoint. So you've got, the rabid minority calling for censorship, but one of us could be the voice of reason at board meetings or city council or commissioners meetings, and with just a small, 1-2 minute statement that we could all work on together, just to keep in these policymakers' ear that that's not the majority view. And we need to call them to account to continue to do the right thing. And I think a good starting point, Julie sent some excellent documents with the American Library Association. They have a Bill of Rights that they developed in 1939, I noticed. And it's a beautiful set of points, and it talks about the right to privacy and freedom of expression, and they serve the whole community and represent all points of view. So, I think some of those talking points we can incorporate, but I do think it's important that the big events for publicity, draw the people in, get more people that can speak up and speak out. And then let's make it a point to show up at policy meetings, whether it's school board or city council or what have you. And just, be that voice that reminds everyone, this is America, like Alice said. So, I mean,
Oh, yeah. Well said, Karen.
Willing to, I think we would be willing to kind of monitor, and I love that Becky was kind of a mole at that meeting. And that's brilliant, actually, because they are a couple of steps ahead of us. And
Yes,
so
they
if
are.
we can find a way, and if we know where they're going to be, and we have, the voice of reason to counter that, and maybe we can make sure our policymakers are listening to the right voices.
Well, yes, listening, and also that our voices are heard and we're not laying down on this. That is what is so important, because if it's important to us, we need to be speaking out. Sylvia?
And I just wanted to add to what Jim had said at the beginning about, us, some of us participating at Calypso but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could contact, some of the other places and ask them, are they going to be doing banned book weeks? Are they going to be doing what hopefully we'll be doing, which is reading some passages from some of the banned books. I mean, that's essentially what we would do. We would have, 4 or 5 speakers just read from the books. And I think if we were to just spread that information to the other book organizations or places, just to say that it's not just happening at Calypso, but it's happening all over the city and at different cafes, different places. But if there would be a way, and I know we're just a tiny army, but I wouldn't mind calling a few of them and asking them, hey, listen, banned book is coming up. What do y'all propose? Are you proposing anything that week? Or I don't know, at least to start the conversation. We do have a little bit of time and maybe or maybe not. We could do that. I don't even know if we're going to be able to pull our own, right, Julie? So anyway,
that's good. And I think some other people have said they would take flyers out. I think if there was a way we could start building a bigger army and this could be a kickoff. And the question is, could we do something or not? And I did check in with the Black Cat and he's willing to do a read in there.
okay.
And it's just, I told him I had to check with the group and see what y'all think. And if y'all are down with that, I would suggest it's the end of banned book week. I know that's kind of odd, but I won't be back up to Corpus until the 22nd. So the 24th is a Saturday. And I do think we have time to put that together.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
think
what about Calypso? Have we?
I haven't reached out to them. I just went to visit that fella and I was intrigued that it was on Staples Street. And he's a new young guy that's getting started. And I think it's good. Calypso's local. It's good to support them too, but it's a bookstore. And, one thing I'd thought about, and I'll just put it out there now, is that have like a reverse book drive where people, he takes donated books because he's reselling. And people could just donate banned books to him and he could get them back out in the community.
that's a good idea.
Can I make one more suggestion for a reading place? Some of these yards that have these little book kiosk things in them, I just love looking at those. Maybe we could find one of those in some high traffic area and have a book reading in their front yard by their little free book thing. So as I drive around town putting up signs for my candidates, I'll look for those little kiosks.
Well, I think we might know someone.
We do. I have one in my front yard. It's not a particularly high traffic area, but there is a lot of traffic because there is an elementary at the end of my street, and Hamlin Middle School is right up on Staples. So a lot of people use that route to get to those 2 schools.
And Dora has one, so we could find those. So it's 7:00. The question would be, do y'all want to try to do something on for banned book week? And if so, who wants to help with that?
I mean, I want to read and I want to do something.
Okay.
So if the assignment is, what do you need?
Well, I think what Julia and I probably need to do is, once we know if we have some volunteers and people who are willing to work with us, then Julia and I can kind of tamp out some of the specifics of it and then come back and share that with you in a few days. And that way we'll have an agenda that will, indicate what our purpose is, what we intend to accomplish, and how we're going to do it and what we will need, or what and who we will need to accomplish that.
Yeah, and then we will have been able to talk to Catherine as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
And then if Catherine approves the rapid response stuff, I will work with someone else, excuse me, on the text for the rapid response if we know something's coming up at CCISD or Tolosa Midway or
Okay.
whatever. So
That's
I'd
awesome.
be happy to work with someone on that. But meanwhile, if y'all will maybe get all your cell phone numbers to some central point where we could have at least a starting point, we can set up some group texts. So I'll be willing
Okay.
to do that.
Lovely.
And if everybody would be willing to put their name in the chat with your phone number, that would help us a lot.
Well,
I
or
did-
I can send out the, the membership list if whatever is easier.
Miss Alice,
Yes.
did these people just come forth and give, just during their 3 minutes, just talk about these books, or was it a topic on the board meeting?
No, that's a good question. The way that all works is that when we have a public comment, it works just like the city council. During public comment, you can talk on any topic that you want. It could be something that is pertinent, that is happening and that's going on right now, or it can be something that you're passionate about. And so you will come up and spend those 3 minutes giving your ideas on and your beliefs and your thoughts on that. So it doesn't have to be an agenda item of any kind. You can just go in and say, I want to talk about banned books, and you can jump on it. You got 3 minutes and you can articulate anything you want to say on that. The other thing I would like for everybody to know is, most of you probably know it, but the board and the superintendent are listeners. We will not entertain anybody's comments. We won't ask questions. We won't answer questions, but that is your time to spend expressing your concerns.
But yes, just like Becky said and Karen said, it's important to have almost like a rebuttal right there.
Absolutely.
And, it's also important, and really I asked the young lady at the desk at the library, where does the list come from? She said from Abbott. Then I started reading about it, and then I was amazed because they are not only sexual content, LGBTQ plus books, they are books about minorities and written by minorities. They're books about caste is one of the books that they're trying to ban. So there's books that do talk about democracy. So I think it's important because I don't even understand. It's still the process when a book gets banned in Wimberley, Texas, and I saw where the librarians there have created a lawsuit, and I'm sure in other places in Texas. So when a book gets banned in Wimberley, does it also get banned in Corpus? And is there really an Abbott list? And then I actually looked at the biggest list I could find, which was, I think the list she was talking about, it had over 800 books on it.
Yeah.
I put them in the card catalog in Hoopla. I put in maybe 20. And so none of the books that I put in were in a library, but you could download them or you could get them an Audible book, the app Hoopla. So I don't know if I was a minor though, would I have access to that without parent permission? So to understand the process about how books get banned in Corpus, and which I'm sure is separate on how they get banned in CCISD, I'm sure there's a committee, but to make, and hats off to Dr. Hernandez, Dr. Cynthia Hernandez, and her comments and what they said, how they defended and how they made sure that there was a process and a protocol. I think it's important for the public to know the protocol. And then in CCISD and the public libraries, is there anything that a normal citizen can do to rebut a book like To Kill a Mockingbird or The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison, or
just, what's another one? Beloved Goosebumps were on there.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
was really amazed at the books that were on there. And so is there any rebuttal process? I know you probably know, Julie, the process because I think you sit on some committee, but for the public to know the process, for kids to know, in this age group, you can have access to this book, maybe with your parent permission, through this app. For adults to know, yes, you'll have access. So maybe bookmarks with that process on, handed out at the library, you know, just information about it. So, and then is there a rebuttal process? And is there really a list that comes from Abbott, which I think there is, where districts have to pull books out of their libraries? Because I think that if you have to have a process, but I think they put pressure on Westoso to, and they took out some books. So, but since really January or February of 2021, there are hundreds of books that have been added to this list across the nation, and especially in Texas. And so I guess I would like to know the process, and is there a rebuttal process? How to get involved? Yes.
Well,
Okay.
can I just-
Vicky's got her hand up, so I'm sorry, Vicky, if we could just answer that, if that's all right with you.
Sure, sure.
Okay, I just wanted to respond quickly to Monica's question, or the TEACs will identify the what is expected of the students to learn, and there's also information in those TEACs and in the curriculum that asks or that says that children will read a variety of, you know, literature of various aspects and all that. So I think that the TEACs can cover some of what you are asking in terms of, you know, how we choose books, why we choose books, but also as those AP classes are designed to bring in a very wide range of authors and contemporary authors, because many of the books that they want is all about contemporary writers and authors. And this is what we need. We need to have, and I think the TEACs will say that in some aspect, and if not, we can kind of put some, you know, we can shore up those, because it is important for our children to be able to think, to see other aspects, to be able to hear other ways of thinking, other ideas. And this is the same thing that what they have done with history, the revisionists, the history, taking history and saying, oh, it didn't happen that way. Or now they're wanting to say their children are having anxiety attacks because they have this guilt complex. Well, you know, there was a comment made here not too long ago. If Black kids could experience being spit on, called out of their names, you know, being pushed against, and they had to be escorted into the buildings, why can't white kids read about it? And that makes a lot of sense. So I think that we can probably glean some rebuttals just based on the TEACs and those things that we expect our kids to walk away from.
You're right. And even in the past 3-4 years, the TEACs have been changed. So where it said we will teach about Dolores Huerta, it's crossed out in many things. So Martin Luther King. So I think I know that those topics in the TEACs defend kids reading those books, but in the past few years, those TEACs have been changed at the state level. So that's one thing. So then we need to make sure that we are letting kids know how to have access to those books.
Right.
Because most of the books that I saw on the list were books about minorities and books by authored by minorities. I would say a large majority of the books that I saw on the list.
That's right.
But people knowing how to get access, and I don't know, Ms. Tutton, I think you were gonna speak about that.
Vicky. Well, Vicky has had her.
Yeah, I know that we're trying to wrap it up, but I guess I just wanted to see who I might be able to get with to, I am going to be at the voter registration table next week on the 15th and 16th at TAMU CC, registering people to vote for the league. And I would like to have something that I could, a little flyer, you know, something informational about Banned Book Week. So if
We can do that.
if anybody wants to, you know, help write something up, I don't feel like I've got enough information at this point to write anything up, but I'm happy to participate. Or if someone could just get me something, that would be good too.
You should
We can probably do
probably,
that.
you should probably clear it with Raul and or Catherine
Okay,
before we put something on a league table.
yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
If you need kind of a synopsis of the whole thing, we can do that if we are given permission.
Yeah, no, we will check in with Catherine because that's a great idea and we need a flyer anyway, is what I'm getting from all this.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, to do the flyer, I think we just need to decide tonight, yes, let's do a banned book event on the 24th at Black Cat. So we can move forward with it and get Catherine's approval. And whoever wants to help, I'll follow up with. I don't know if y'all can hear me. I'm sorry, my puppy's kind of coughing. All right.
Yeah, we can get something out and we can let everybody know who's on, everybody who's on this. And if you know of anybody that would also like to participate, if you could kind of run it by them, we can have something put together. I will work with Julie and we can put something together in the next couple of days and have it ready to send out to everybody.
So we could touch base with everybody on the 11th, by the 11th on Sunday. Is that good? It sounds to me like everybody that's on this call is I took something from the civil rights movement, and instead of being freedom riders, I've called ourselves freedom readers.
Good.
But it kind of sounds like everybody's down with that. So we can stay in touch with you and we won't overwhelm you with text and things like that. We'll be deliberate about it, and I can send out some kind of synopsis of this meeting and next steps. And in regards to book challenges, Monica, the public library, we're working on that right now. Collection development policy, it needed to be upgraded. That is what lets me know that something's headed to the library because they have not done that since the 90s. And so they've got a draft right now, but we don't have the policy yet. They have one that exists that they use, and it's a very ALA standard in that the patron goes to the manager of the library first, and they can file a form challenging the book. Then the patron meets with the library manager and they try to educate the patron on freedom to read and why the book should stay in the library and how they could help mitigate children getting it. You know, that they suggest, look, you know, be with your children when you check out a book. It's up to you to be the clearinghouse, not the library staff. And so they try to work them through that. And if they can't soothe that, then the challenge goes to the library board. And the library board decides whether or not the book should be removed. If the patron and or the city council or the library does not agree with the library board decision, they can take it further and take the book out. And so that's the steps that we have right now.
But does it get taken off the Audible list is my question. I mean, if I was a book vigilante, I'd just go and take out a book and not return it. And I actually read some articles where that's what people do, because as a former elementary librarian, you couldn't afford to replace that book, you know?
Yeah.
So I actually read that people do that. So
I could see that happening.
yeah.
No, I'm gonna check on the digital checkouts, because I don't know, and that's a really good question. I know Brooklyn Library right now is telling, you know, families that they can check out banned books. And the library directors, managers have told us, well, even if the book isn't a hard copy in the library, the kids are really smart and know how to get one. So
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
so, you know, I think what it gets at is back to that. This is just a way to divide us. And the big thing to remember about Banned Book Week is the theme is books will unite us, not divide us. And that's how we go forward. So those are good questions, and I'll check on it though. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
One last
Annelle?
point. Yes.
Yeah.
I put it in my email address in there a couple of times, but if someone would like a copy, we put a lot of good resources in the chat this evening. If you would like a copy of it, you can email me and I'd be happy to send it to you. It is Annell, ANNELL at ebns.us. E is an elephant, B is in boy, N is in Nancy, S is in Sam, .us.
Awesome. And Annelle is a diligent flight director, and thank you for helping us. You've got to be exhausted. I appreciate it, and you saved the chat, so we'll get on it.
And I want to be there on the 24th and whatever else I can do.
Great. And so we'll work on all that. First step, let Catherine know what's going on, and then we'll get back with you all by Saturday or Sunday. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you
Good.
guys. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you
Bye.
guys for all of your input and your excitement. I feel it in the air.
Me too.
Yeah, we're gonna give them a punch.
We are.
Punch.
We
Yes.
are. And I tell you, we are a small army, but we have a lot of troops out there. What they look for is for us to, you know, kind of get things going and then call them
Right.
to action. So that's what we're going to do. Thank
Yes.
y'all.
Thank you so much, everybody. Monica, it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
No, it's great to see you too.
Everybody, it's nice to see everybody today. Y'all have a great evening. And thank you
All
so
right.
much for being here with us.
Good night, Freedom Readers.
All
Mhm.
right.
Yay.